Lamp in the alley. New York City never sleeps. At night, its streets and alleys are filled with muffled sounds and bright lights, but they also hide mysteries that few dare to explore. I, just an ordinary resident of the city, was about to encounter one of those stories. It was a cold winter night, and I was heading home after a long day at work. The streetlights reflected off the snow, creating an eerie and unusual scene. The city, normally vibrant and full of life, now seemed empty, almost deserted. I walked down a quiet street when, turning a corner, I noticed something strange. In a narrow alley, a light bulb was flickering frantically. Unlike the steady glow of the streetlights, this bulb seemed to be struggling to stay on. The sound of the bulb flickering was the only noise that stood out in the darkness, and something in the air made me feel uneasy. I decided to approach, driven by curiosity, even though my instinct was telling me to move on, to not look back. As I got closer, the feeling of discomfort grew. The alley was empty, but that flickering bulb seemed to have an energy of its own, something that couldn't be explained. The cold wind cut through me, and the sound of my own footsteps seemed muffled by the stillness around me. I stopped right under the lamp, feeling an invisible gaze watching me. Then I heard footsteps, distant, but getting closer fast. My heart raced, and fear crept in. Before I could take a step back, a figure appeared in front of me, stepping out of the shadows. It was a tall, thin man, dressed in dark clothing and a heavy coat. He seemed out of place, as if he belonged to a different reality than mine. I couldn't see his face clearly, but there was something about his posture that made me uneasy. He didn't look normal, as if he was a part of the alley itself, part of the darkness. And suddenly, he spoke. "Did you see her?" I froze, looking around, but there was no one. The alley was empty, except for the flickering light and that man. He continued to stare at me with an unsettling gaze, as if he knew me, as if he already knew what I had seen or hadn't seen. I tried to respond, but my voice wouldn't come out. It was as if his presence was draining the words from my mouth. The man took a step closer and looked at the lamp with an intense focus, as if waiting for something to happen. "You didn't notice, did you?" he murmured, his voice heavy with eerie seriousness. "She's trying to show us something." I couldn't process his words. The light bulb, what could be so important about it? I glanced up at the light, now flickering even more violently, and suddenly the man turned abruptly, as though he remembered something urgent. "It's the lamp, the same one that's trying to warn us. The city has forgotten about it, but it's always seen what happens in the shadows," he said. "You know what it's seen, don't you?" I didn't know how to respond. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" The figure smiled, but it was a disturbing smile. "The lamp never fails. The city ignored it, but it always saw what happened here," he continued, his voice deep and chilling. "You've seen it, haven't you?" Before I could answer, the man turned his back and vanished into the darkness of the alley, leaving me there, dazed and confused. He seemed to dissolve into the night, as if he were part of the alley, a shadow that shouldn't be there. I stood in silence, staring at the lamp, which now flickered faster. What did he mean? What had the lamp seen? A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to run, but my legs felt frozen. The alley, now empty again, seemed darker than before. Then, suddenly, the lamp went out. Silence overtook the alley. Nothing but the sound of my own breath broke the stillness. The city, as if nothing had happened, continued its hasty movement outside, but I knew something was wrong. Something was out of place, and that alley, that man, and the lamp were the keys to a secret that no one else seemed to understand. With a confused mind, I decided to leave. But a strange feeling that something was about to happen followed me until I entered my home. When I closed the door behind me, one question lingered. Was that the end? Or was something still preparing to reveal the truth behind the lamp and the shadows of the alley?